Well, good morning, guys. Well, fine. So last day we are talking about inheritance strategies, right? Three types of inheritance strategies as we discussed. Like what is that? One, two, zero or n. Second one, many to many. I already explained you both the two things. One to zero or one, and the second one is many to many relationship. We already talked about both these two, one to zero or one, and many to many, which has been discussed. In many to many, we have two tables, and the third table is a conjunction table, and this table will be containing the information from both the two things. Junction table, a conjunction or a junction table, we call this particular junction table will contain the primary key here, the primary key here. And remember, this one is a primary key as well as foreign key also. It is a foreign key. The product of product ID refers to products table, and customer ID refers to customer ID. Okay, fine. What next? The next thing is one to many relationship. One to many, we already saw that. Okay, I want to teach you a small thing over here. So I'm not again explaining anything. One to many, I'll just copy paste the code. You know how to create the tables, views, and all. Department employee, that's it only. I'm using the same thing. I want to tell you a new thing there. So first, let me create the project. Okay. Well, created a project installing NT framework. Next, add the model classes. The first class is department. Next, the attributes of the department. ID, name, location, and also a collection property representing the employees. So we need to define the second class, that is employee class. ID, name, job, salary, department ID, department, and the foreign key column is DID. Last class I said, you remember, you can write the foreign key information either on the top of the navigation property or either on the top of the foreign key also. But if you write on the top of the navigation property, you're required to specify the foreign key property name. If you write on the top of the foreign key, you're required to write the navigation property name. Okay. So anyhow, you can just define it. Yeah, these are the classes, what we have defined here, the two classes. What next? Context. Named it as company DB context. Colon DB context. Then company DB context, base of con STR. Strategies again, the same. Drop create database. If model changes, I'm using a different thing here. If model changes, whenever model changes, use this. Array, whatever you like, you use it, guys. And then departments, employees. Then open the web.config. Write the connection string in the web.config. Next, write a controller. Something. I'm writing the controller as company controller. Add a controller. Drop it then. Next, import model namespace. Stop talking here. Who is the talking? Next, create the instance. Creating 4 department records, 4 employee records, and adding everything to the table. Save changes. Finally, DC dot calling employees. Okay. Now, add a view. Build the project once. List model class is employee context class and yeah. What are the attributes we have? First one is employee ID, name, job, salary, and department ID. Okay. Department ID, department name, and location. DID, name, location. Same. Okay. Run. For that, what is the database name? Company DB, I think. If the company DB is existing in your database, in your server, drop the database first. I think it's not there. Last class, we deleted all the databases now. Let's check once. We don't have. Run. Okay. Just a minute. Yeah. Fine. So we can see all the values here. I think we copy pasted a location only there. We did not change here, guys. Okay, we'll fix it. We did not change here. That's why name only came there. Fine. Yeah, you're just getting the data from both the two tables now. Are you clear? You're getting the data from both the two tables here. We're just able to see that. And if you go to the database, if you just go to the database, you can understand the relationship. What's the relationship? It's a one-to-many relationship where departments is a parent table which contains a primary key, where employees in the child table which contains a primary key as well as the department is a foreign key. And this is not the first time we created. This is the third or fourth time we have just already done this. Just one more time I just showed you that, sir. Now guys, listen. Actually, when I call the index action, it will try to execute this code again. It will try to execute this code once again. Okay, I'm calling the index action method once again. There's an error when you're trying to execute this. What is the error? Primary key violation. Primary key violation. Why? You're trying to insert this data one more time, right? When you're trying to insert this data one more time, again, the 10 is trying to insert the second time. Now you're getting an error. Why? Because in the index, and this code executes always. But listen, tomorrow, when you're going to create a database now, when you're going to create a database in some sort of tables in the client machine, there will be some default or initial data in tables where there will be some default or initial data in the table. See, when SQL Server is installed in your machine, by default, 4 databases are installed for you already now. Master database, model database, TempDB database, and MSDB database, 4 databases. These are default databases. And if you open them, there'll be some default data in the tables now. So what I'm trying to tell you is, basically, when you're working tomorrow in the real time, sometimes you'll be having some real-time data, means default data will be present in the tables. Always end user doesn't enter the data here, sometimes default data. See, suppose tomorrow you take a Amazon website. By default, their table should contain products data. Afterwards, customer will come and register. Am I right or not? First, the table should contain the product data. Product data is default data. By default, when the site is launched, product data should be, see, by default, when the site is launched today, Amazon launches the site, and when you open the site, no products now, no output will come now. What will you purchase? So product data is the default data or not? Same way, in every application, there will be some default data. In our company database also, departments is a default data. Departments is a default data. Now employees, you are going to add the employees into those departments now. Correct? Suppose you take a banking system. You're going to create customer accounts. And account types is the default data. Type of accounts. Type of accounts means savings account, fixed deposit account, demat account, whatever. That is all default data. By default, that should be present now. So every database will be having some default data. So tomorrow, when you start working in the real time, you also will be having some default data for the application. So how do we deal with the default data? We call it as seed data. What do we call? Seed data. Seed, S-E-E-D. Okay, seed data. How do you deal with this particular seed data in the real time? Okay, see, seed data in ND framework code first. If at all you want to give your own default data, if at all you just want to give your own default data, what exactly you need to do? We need to write that code, means actually, just a minute. We need to provide all the data in a method called as seed. I repeat, guys, the data should be provided inside of a method called as seed. We need to write the code inside of the seed method. Got my point or not? Okay. So you need to write the particular code inside of the seed method. And that method is present under this class. Which class? All 3 classes. What 3? Create database if not exist. Drop create database if model changes. Drop create database always. In all the three classes, we have this method which need to be overridden. Which needs to be overridden. Did you catch my point or not? Where the method is present? Under the initialization strategy classes. We call them as initialization strategy classes. Remember? DB initialization strategy classes. Three classes basically we learned. Understood or not? So the code we need to override. But if you want to override, first that should be my parent class. Then only I can override. But am I inheriting from that class anywhere? No, we are only directly creating the instance of the class and consuming it now. Did you catch my point or not? We are not inheriting the class. We are only consuming. And overriding is possible only when you are inheriting. Without inheriting, you can't do overriding now. Understood my point or not? Without inheriting, we cannot do overriding in this particular context. So then, sir, how can I override when I'm not going to inherit this class anywhere now? Okay, to resolve this particular problem, what you do, write your own initializer class now. Write your own initializer class. Simple, guys. Applies common sense here. Write your own initializer class. Inherit the class from any of these three initializers. Any of these three initializers. Choice is yours here. Any of the three initializers. And now here, without using these classes, use the new class. Hey, that's what inheritance is all about now. Inheritance is all about that only. I'm using this class now. No, I want to add some code into this. I cannot add. So what you'll do? Inheritance. Now use child class here. That's all. So what to do? First step. Define a new class. Define a new class now. Okay. With by inheriting from any of the three initializer classes. That's your choice. Whether you want to go for create database if not exist, or drop create database if model changes, or drop create database always is your choice. But define one initializer class. Understood now? You can just see. In the models folder, let me come to the models folder. And I'm going to add you a new class here. I'm naming this class as your choice, man. What do you want to give? What is the name I given? See? So it's an initializer. What is the name I given? You give any name you like. What next? Inherit from any of the three initializers. We'll go with the same thing here. What I used, I'll go with the same initializer. Just a minute. What I used here, I'll use the same initializer. What is that? Drop create database model changes and pass the context class name. Or the context class name? Company DB context. Okay, now? And now override the seed method. The seed method is taking a parameter, say, company DB context. Now, whatever default data you have, write code for inserting the data here now. So let's do one thing. In the controller class, see, this is my default data, guys. Did you understand? I want this code to be executed only for one time. This is my default data. And this, when the database is created, this default data should be coming up into the tables now. Let me remove it here. And I will put this code under the seed method. Not DCA. What is the name here? God. What name? Otherwise, change the name there to DC. Either use this name there or change that name to DC. Why to change this? Already coming automatically. So let's use that name here. Yeah. Context dot departments dot. DC is also data context only na. That only company DB context. Next, context dot. Now this code will execute one and only one time when the database is created. Did you understand my point or not? this code will execute one and only one time when the database is created. Okay, now first step is clear. What is the first step? Define a new class. Inherit from any of the three initializers. Any of the three initializers. Next, override the seed method and put all the default data into that now. Override the seed method and put all the default data into that method. Second step. Now, what we will do in the second step, come to your context, and the context, don't use this class now. Why? Array, if I use this class, no use. What should I use? The new class. What is the new class? Company DB initializer. Company DB initializer inherits from? Array, without using that class, I use a child class. This class is nothing but drop create database model changes. See, when you want to add some extra code, this is a solution now. I cannot make changes to drop create database model changes. I don't have the source code. So solution, inheritance, write all the new code in the new class. Now start using the new class in your place now. Are you clear? So now this is the class I should use. Let me drop the database once. So why are you dropping it? Because it's not drop create database always. What is the strategy we are using? If model changes. Now the model did not change now. So database won't be recreated. That's why I dropped it. Okay. Let us now run our view here. Run the view. First time you are running now. Correct? First time when you run, the seed method will execute now. And seed method will save the data into the tables, and department data will have its default values. I think there is another mistake we've done here. We are printing employee ID here. I will correct it. That's not employee ID. What should I print? Department ID should be printed there. Well, on something mistake. Yeah, we'll just do it. We call it save changes. Just a minute. Company DB. See there. State data was coming here now. Yes or not? We made a small mistake here. The ID. Earlier, when I ran the index view for the second time, it gave an error. Array 10 cannot be inserted again into the table. Yes or not? Now you won't get the error. Why is it? That code will execute only one time. One, when the database is created. And the same code, here I removed the code and I put the code there. That's all. I did not do anything. I just removed the code from the controller and I put into seed method. Same code only. But even though you're running it for the second time, it will not cause you any error. And all of you can observe. Again, this Raju, John, Pankaj, Sunil are reinserted again. Have you noticed or not? They're again going to be reinserted for you in this particular case. But the department data is not reinserted. It is going to be the same old values what we got in this case. Are you getting my point? Okay. DNAME and location not loaded. What happened? Your save changes here. Yes. Company controller. 10, 20, 30. Save changes. DC dot enabled is equals to false. Where EMPS equals to from E in. DC dot employees dot include E lambda expression E dot something wrong we are writing. We missed where, correct one, where clause is master. Is it not working? Cannot convert lambda into abstract. Delegate type. No, actually without where it is not accepting include. Without a where clause, it is not accepting include. String path. Just a second. Navigation property with the name departments. You can see this department data is not reinserted. But what is reinserted? These names are reinserted. See, 4 times I executed till now, and the names are reinserted. Are you clearer? 4 times inserted, and these names are reinserted every time. The names are reinserted, but some departments, the department data is not reinserted. Why? Because we written the code in the seed method now, and the seed method executes only for 1 time. Multiple times it won't execute. So what data do you require to write in the seed method? Tomorrow, when you're creating a database on the client system, and if you want any default data, the default data should always be present in the seed method. So when you create the database for the first time, all the seed data will be inserted off into the tables. So what we call that as a default data. Clearer or not? Okay, tomorrow if you are creating a shopping cart application, let's have the default data. Our company database, department is the default data. Department is the default data. If you are creating a library management system, books are the default data. Every library will have the books by default now. Apart from that, you may add more books, that is secondary. Some default books data should be present over here. Point clear, all of you? Okay, so that's how you deal with the default data. Just a small correction in this, and I think in the notes also, just a small correction. What you do is, just a minute. No, yeah, just when you're writing, just write it. DC.employees include your navigation property name. What is that? Department. Okay, just the small correction there. Just to write this stuff. Not include department. One thing I just want to tell you here. What's it? The syntax of this include is a little bit different. What I mean to tell is, if you are using a where clause, I too noticed it now only. Okay, I did not notice it earlier. First time I too noticed it. What this is? If you're using a where clause in your code now, dot employees dot, you're applying where clause where e dot status is equals to true. And I want to use the include also. Dot include e lambda expression e dot. I taught you this earlier, remember? This is what I taught you earlier. So if you don't have a where clause, you need to write it like this. Employees dot include. That is the reference. If there is no where clause, how to write? Dot include department. If you have a where clause, then you should write e lambda expression e dot department. Are you getting my point here? I did not notice it. The first time I noticed it. Okay, that if I use include, it is not accepting. When I use include directly, then this syntax is not accepting. Directly specify the name of your navigation property. No, sir, if I have where clause, if I have, this one I already explained you already. I already explained you this concept clear in the lazy loading classes. Go and verify. Okay, so what is new now? If there is no where clause and want to use include, specify the name in the double quotes. What name? Navigation property name in the double quotes. That's it. Okay. Okay, guys. Yeah. So what are you learning? See data in NT framework. I read that when we insert data into our database tables, during the database initialization process, when we I'm sorry, not when we can insert data into our database tables during the database initialization process. This will be important when we want to provide some default masked data for any table in the application. For example, in our previous example, if you want to insert default data into department table, then we need to use the concept of seed and insert default data into the table. To seed data into any table, we need to implement the logic in seed method of any DB initializer classes. Okay, method of any 3 DB initializer classes, any 3 DB initializer classes, any of the 3 DB initializer classes, guys. What are that? Create database if not exists. Drop create database always. Drop create database if model changes. And to do that, we have to define a class, DB initializer class, define a custom DB initializer class inheriting from any of the above 3 DB initializer classes, and then override the seed method. We need to override the seed method. To test this process, add a new class in models folder, add a new class in models folder of our previous project with the name company.initializer.cs and write the below code in it. So what are you doing? See, a new class company inheriting from. I'm once again telling you which one to use is your choice. I'm not restricting you or I'm not telling you use that only. Use whatever class you want there. You want to go for using a drop create database always or create database if model changes. I'm leaving it to you. Okay, but just override and there's a code you need to write now. Next step, go to company DB context class and rewrite the constructor of the class as well. How to rewrite? Company DB context. This is what? Here, earlier you created drop create database and model changes. Now you are changing to DB initialize. Now next go to company constructor. Delete this code. Don't write it. Just I go shown you there to understand. Delete of this code now. Okay. And delete the below code because we have implemented the seed method in company DB class and it will insert data into department table during the database initialization process. So this code is no more required in company controller. We don't require this code in the company controller, guys. We need to delete this code now. Point clear, all of you? Okay. So all this code should be deleted off. Be careful. We need to delete off. Clearer? So this is about seeding the data. How do you use seed data in your application? How do we use the seed data in our application? Okay. What next? The next thing, guys, what we are going to learn in the next is migrations. The next concept what we are going to learn is about migrations. What is migrations? Actually, we need to talk about these migrations initially, but we did not discuss about them. What the migrations means, if you recollect, already in the starting classes of the code first, I taught you about this. I did not explain you in detail. I just given only an overview of the migrations. What is that? Whenever you are going to use code first, whenever you're using code first, we need to use a concept called migrations, and migrations will bring your application and the database in sync with each other. Schedule this point, remember? Now types of migrations are there, automatic migrations and manual migrations. Default is automatic migration. That's why we don't require to do anything. If you run the code, it will execute always automatically. Yes or not? Okay. So what is migrations? Listen, migrations means bringing the database and application in sync with each other. Application in the sense model classes in the application, the model classes in the application and the database tables sync with each other now. Means your model classes, we have 10 columns now. Sorry, 10 properties. 10 columns should be present in my table also now. Are you clear or not? Tomorrow, 11th property added. 11th column should be added there now. Are you getting me or not? And we call that as migration. Bringing in the model classes and the database tables sync with each other is called as migration. And migrations are two types. What are the two types? Automated migration, code-based migration. What we used till now? Automated migration. But in automated migration, we have a drawback. What is the drawback? Code loss, data loss. What is the data loss? If I use the strategy, which strategy? Create database if model, create database if not exist. The first strategy. What is the first strategy? Create database, open the mouth and answer if not exist. What is the drawback in that? The drawback in this is model changes in the future doesn't reflect to my table now. Model changes in the future will not reflect to my table. Means if I add new columns in my model classes, these properties are not going to be added to my tables. Are you clear? If you want the data to be reflected, then if your model changes should reflect to database, then you're required to depend on the remaining two strategies now. What are the remaining two strategies? Drop create database if model changes. Drop create database. What is the drawback here? Data loss. The drawback is data loss. I inserted 100 records in the table. I added a new property now. A new column should be added. So now it will recreate the database. When it recreates the database, all the data is lost now. Data loss. This is dangerous now. So we have drawback in all these three now. What is the drawback in the first strategy? Model changes won't reflect in the table. That is a drawback. The drawback in the next two are model changes will reflect. But the dangerous thing is data loss here. The dangerous thing over there is data loss. We are just going to have a data loss over there. Okay. How to deal with this in the real time tomorrow? How to deal with in the real time? And to do that, we are just using the concept of the migrations. With the help of the migrations, we can resolve the problem. With the help of migrations, we can resolve the problem here. Okay, so what you just require to do now, what we need to do, I'll tell you what we just require to do and how do we use these migrations, just to discuss in detail about it. Okay, how you are just going to use the migrations. Let me do one thing, guys. What is it? First, we'll talk about automated migration. And to demonstrate this, let's do it practical. Let's make it practical. Let's create a new project. Practically, we'll show you how these problems can be resolved. This is the most important topic for us now. Why? Going forward, any changes should reflect in the tables now. Okay. Let's do all the steps as is. First, install NT framework. Second, we'll design some model class, guys. Let me add a model class. I will define a model class with the name called student. Student is my model. Student. With two simple columns. ID, name, that's it. Next, context class. Let me name it as school DB context. Colon DB context. Yeah, a constructor, base keyword, con str, one model only now. So one property only, students. What next? Config. Write the connections in the config. Also add one controller, school controller. Yeah, import the model namespace. Dot models. Fine. The school controller inserting a record. ID is auto generation. So leave it. It auto generates and inserts. So just two columns here. What is that? ID column, name column. Let us add a view. I'm not doing any designing. Simply add a view. Without a view, we can't run the code. That's why I'm just adding. Okay. I closed up SQL. Let me delete all these databases which are unnecessary. Company. School. Store. Okay, guys. No database is extra now. Our old MVC database is there. That's all. Okay, run. When you run this, it will create you school DB database, creates you student table with one record. The name is ID will be one, and the name is Raju or something. I just put there. That's it. You won't get any output on the view, guys. I did not write anything. Just added a blank view. That's all. School DB. Select star from. Okay, now just got the record. So nothing new. It is same up to you. Now I want to add new columns into my table. If you want to add new column in the table, you're required to modify the model class now. You need to modify the model class. The model class should be modified. Yeah, till now, you see, this is what I just only copy pasted all the code for you there. Till now, we did not do anything newly here. Just we have copied the code and pasted it over there. Am I clear, all of you? Yes or not? Okay, fine. So we added a controller also and done all the things. Say, now, if you make any changes to the model class, like adding new attributes, nothing but properties, or modifying existing attributes and run the project, we get an error because by default, the database initialization strategy is create database if not exist. I did not mention the strategy anywhere, guys. So what is the strategy? Create database if not exist. And if you try to change the database initialization strategy to drop create database if model changes or drop create database always, we'll be losing the existing data in the table. And to overcome this problem, let us use migrations. Let us use the migrations. Before I use migrations, let me practically show you. I will take you to the student class. I'll take you to the student class. I'm writing public string. I'm going to add a new property here. I'm going to add a new property in this particular place. For example, student ID, student name. I just want to go for the class. Okay, the class of the student, int class. I want it to be nullable. Question mark. Okay, now come index, run the code, and you get an error. What is it? The database backing the model has been, or the model backing the database. The model backing the database was modified. Watch. Error. We got this error earlier also one day I shown you. Read it. Since the database creation is done, the model class got changed. The model class got changed. So this is purely a problem what you are just facing right now because it got modified with the appropriate. Okay, the model class got changed now. Well and good. Now, how to resolve this? How to resolve this? Okay. We'll be losing the existing data. And to overcome this problem, let's use what is automatic migration. What automatic migration means? By default, we have automatic migrations already enabled, but still, this will not be handling the data loss. This will not be handling the data loss. And to overcome this particular problem, we need to take the help of a NuGet package. We need to first install a NuGet package. One NuGet package, basically, and then we need to enable the automatic migrations in our application. Are you clear or not? Okay, see, to use automatic migration, we need to enable migrations in our project, and to do it, go to Package Manager Console Windows tool, Tools menu, NuGet Package Manager Console window, Package Manager Console. We never used it. We used it, I think, one day or not. I did not show. Okay, let me. There is another window there, guys. Tools menu, NuGet Package Manager. What are we using every day? We have a console window for this, just like a command window. Click on this, it will open you the Package Manager Console. And here we need to run some commands now. It's a command window. Just like CMD, here it is PM, Package Manager. We need to run a command. What is it? Enable automatic migrations. Enable automatic migration. Okay. The command is, just have a look, guys. What is the command name? Enable -migrations. Next, space minus enable automatic migrations True. Enable the auto migrations true. Hit the enter key, guys. And let us see what happens. See that? Are you targeting an existing database? Are you targeting an existing database? And it was just doing some actions here. It was doing some actions here. And if you watch, it will add you a folder here called as migrations folder check. And in this, it will create a file called as configurations file. If you open the configurations file now, you'll be finding a configuration file here. This is what you have. And this is going to inherit from a class called DB migration configuration. And guys, in this class also, we have a seed method. This also can be overridden in ERC. It is also giving a seed method and telling if you have any default error, print here now. Earlier we done manually, but now automatically it came now and telling me if you have any default error, put it here. Leave it. Read this. Automatic migrations enabled true. Context key is something. School DB context or something. What is this context keys and all? I'll show you. I'll tell you. Before that, just watch. Array, I enabled automatic migrations there. Anytime, did you notice every day a new database is getting created and the tables are getting created now? Apart from that, have you noticed there is another extra table there? Notice or not? What does the table tell me? There is one more extra table there. Underscore migration history. Underscore migration history. What is this table? The migration history table will contain some information to you. What information? Like basically, whenever the first time the database is created, whenever it creates the database for the first time, it is going to insert a record into the table with some ID. Okay, and this is called as a context key. Your project name dot array. Its name and context key class name now. Okay, what is the associated context class? And the model data is stored in a binary format. The model data is stored in a binary format. And the version of the NT framework you are using, 6.4.4. All this data will be stored here. What is the need of this table? I'll tell you. We'll talk about it in detail about this table and all. Okay. First, what did I do? I opened the package manager console and there I ran a command. What is the command I ran? Enable -migrations space enable automatic migration true. Okay, there's the command. And guys, the above command will add a migrations folder in our project, and under the folder we find a file. What is a file? Configuration.cs, which contains a class called configuration with the below coordinate. What is the code you find in that configuration? Inheriting from DB migration configuration using your context class name now. Then there is a constructor and two statements in it. What is that? Automatic migrations enabled true. And what is the context key? This context key is in the database table, remember? And also given you a seed method and telling you this method will be called after migrating to the latest version. You can use the update or helper extension method to avoid creating duplicate seed data. And it is telling basically write your seed data here. So you will avoid duplicate records now. How many times this code will execute? One time. Just one time only it will execute. So we can just use this particular method for seeding the data. For seed data, we just use that. Okay. What to do now? What should I do now? Very simple, guys. Come to your application. Automatic migration, not no much coding, just run a command. After running the command, come here and use your DB initializer, DB database dot set initializer. Remember this method now? Tell me, what did you pass to this method till now? What did you pass? New, create database, if not exist or otherwise. Drop create database always, otherwise. Drop create database if model changes. Now, not these three guys, we have a new initializer, which we did not use it till now, and that can be used only in migrations. That can be used only in the migration. What is the class? The class name is migrate. Is a fourth strategy, but the strategy can be used only in migrations. You cannot use it normally. That's why I did not tease you about this class. If you want to use this class, compulsory, what should come first? Migrations. Then only you can use this class. Otherwise, you can't use this class. What is it? Migrate database to latest version. And for this, we are passing the context class name now. Now also same only. What's your context class name? SchoolDB context. But now your second parameter. What is the second parameter? The second parameter is the configuration class. What is second parameter? The configuration class should be passed. Error coming here? Yeah, because it is added in a new folder, remember? And added in a new folder, then automatically namespace name will change now. What is the namespace name now? Dot migrations. So using dot, that is why we got the error. After doing this, see, our error is fixed here now. Are you guys clearer? Okay, you are done with this particular thing. Okay, once you do this, now see, come back to student. Do you have a new column added or not? Yes or not? Come on, let us run the index.cshtml. When I run this index.cshtml, what happens? Let us see once. You add a new model class or you make modifications to the existing. Do whatever you want. Any change you do and run. And see whether these changes will be affecting or not. Check it out. Got it? You just got it now. So I want to add another column. What do you want? A fees column. I wanted a fees column. Make sure, yeah, when you're adding new columns, by default, they should be null. Are you getting my point? Why is there, if there is no null value by default, what can happen? If there is no null value, default, there is no null value. Record is already existing now. If it is not null, now with not null, what value will be present there now? So that's why in your SQL Server classes also you must learn this particular point. You're having a new column. The new column should have a default value null. Otherwise, new columns cannot be added. Why? Existing data is present now. Null. Sir, same record. Data is same only, yeah, because the same record was inserted again now. But we will correct this because we have just written static data there now. That's the static data. But tomorrow you won't do static. We'll create a view and insert. But new column was added now. Are you clear? Okay. Again, I want to add 2 more columns. 2 more columns. Yes. Let me come to the student. Public. Okay. I'm just going to add float fees. Or otherwise, double float marks get and set. I'm not using a default value. I'm not using a I'm not saying nullable. I'm not saying nullable. Because I don't say nullable, this column is a null or not null in the table now. Louder. not null. So if I run this, what happens? Let us see. Yeah, what do you think? Will it add or will not add? Add or will not add? Let us see. Added up here, but so you said problem there. The problem is result here. See there. Default value is 0 there now. So what the application done? Application is inserted of the default value as 0. The 0 went as a default value now. Are you clear? Okay. See, some data should be there. I want to remove the fees column. I want to remove the fees column. I don't want the fees column. I want to remove the column. And what did I say? You can make any change now. Yes or not? So I want to remove the fees column. Okay, let me stop it. Come back to your application. What you'll do? Remove the fees column. Okay, now again run. When you added, you did not have any problem, correct? When you are deleting, problem is coming. What is the problem? See, data loss is there. Be warning you, there is a data loss. You are asking, adding a column, not a problem, man. But deleting a column is a problem only now. Why? Existing data, what is present in the tables will be deleted of now. So there is a possible data loss here. So are you sure of deleting of this record now? Did you catch my point or not? What is it telling you? Are you sure of deleting this particular record? There's a data loss. There is a data loss. Because there is a data loss, how we cannot manage this one. So to resolve this problem, go to configuration class again. Read the statement. I'm telling, okay, let the data be lost. I don't have any problem. I don't have any problem. Yes, I know that data is going to be lost. So when you do that, automatically what is going to happen? It is going to enable you the data loss also. And now you can again watch. Now you should not get any error in doing it. Yeah, executed. Column deleted. Sir, I want to add a table. Add it here, no problems. If you are going to add a new table, it'll create a new table in the database now. Got my point or not? Okay, so you can add a table, you can delete a table, you can add a column, you can delete a column. Anything is possible without a data loss. When data loss will come? Data loss will come only when you are removing the column. Removing the columns, the data loss will be there. There is no point of talking about that. Correct or not? When you are removing a column, data loss will be there and there is no point of talking about that. Columns deleted means 100% data loss will be there. So you need to agree for that. But adding a column will not cause you data loss now. But earlier, in the first three strategies, adding a columns also will have a data loss. But here adding a columns will not have any data loss at all. Okay. So you can just watch it. All these steps what we done. What is the first step? Open the package manager console and run that command. What is the command? Enable migrations space minus enable automatic migration colon $true. $true. Next step, it will define your class here. What is the class name? Configuration is the name of the class, what it is going to create you now. Okay. Once after creating the class, what is the next thing you require to do? You just require to go for SchoolDB context class. As SchoolDB context class in the constructor, write on this one. What is it? Database part, set initializer, and a new initializer now. What is a new initializer? I cannot use this initializer directly. I can use this initializer only with migrations. That is why I did not tell you. So totally there are 4 initializers to you. What are the 4 initializers? Drop create database always. Drop create database if model changes. Create database if not exists. And the 4th one is migrate database to latest version. Migrate database to latest version can be used only when you are using migrations. Without migrations, we cannot use this. Okay, next. With this action, everything is set ready for automatic migration. And to test this, either add new property student class or add new model classes in the project. And the next time when we run the project, we see all the changes reflecting under the database. All the changes will be reflecting for you under the database to you once you do that. However, sometimes when you modify or remove existing properties in domain classes, we get system.data.entity.migration.infrastructure.automatic data loss exception. And this is because we may lose data in corresponding columns of table. So to handle this kind of scenario, we need to set what? Automatic migration data loss enabled is equals to true in the configuration class constructor. In the configuration class constructor. To do that, go to configuration class in migrations file, and under the folder, under the above statement, which we need to look at the following. See. Automatic, already we have this one here, automatic migration enabled true. Below it, we are adding this. New statement added. There's a new statement we are adding, guys. Okay, now there's a new statement to be added. To be added. Yeah. Once you do all these particular things, automatically, automatic migration starts working. Automatic migration starts working for you here. Okay. We have one more concept here. What is that? Code-based migration. The code-based migrations is a little bit more commands and lengthy process, but still we have more customizations available. Did you understand my point? Code-based migrations, we need to run a lot of commands. See, not just one command. See, enable migration, add migration, update migration. Like this, you have multiple commands. We need to execute all these commands. We need to execute all these particular commands. But still, code-based migration is more flexible than automatic migrations. Are you getting me or not? So going forward, this will be giving you a lot of options to you in this. Like we can change the data types of the columns, We can define our own null constraints, not null constraints. All this customization, more customization available here. Rollbacking, rollbacks, all this, a lot of extra options will come into picture in the code-based migration. But we need to put some efforts there. We need to do some manual coding over there. Not manual coding, commands. We need to run some commands there. By running these commands, we can just do much more customization with the code-based migration. Okay. We need to again do all this, create a project center. Okay, I'll show you tomorrow. How do you work with code-based migrations. Okay. Let's stop here, guys.